3,
Thank you.
2, 1.
And cue. Font 3, go font 3.
You are going to find today's show very, very interesting and extremely relevant to everybody here and everybody at home. I want you to imagine something for me. You're sitting on your couch or cooking in your kitchen while the kids are playing, and suddenly you hear a voice. You haven't gone psychotic. It's sort of muffled, but it becomes clear that a man is talking to you, and he's talking to you through your home security cameras. He's talking to you through your thermostat, which also means he's probably been watching you and your family.
I'm afraid for my wife. I am afraid for my children.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I see you.
Terrorized by technology.
You're sitting at home, and then all of a sudden, a voice starts talking to you, and they know your name.
It was the scariest day of my life.
Home security cameras hacked.
I heard these voices speak to my daughter. We know your daddy's not home. I was terrified to stay in that house.
How safety devices can be turned against you.
911 told me to grab my children and get out the house. We ran out the front door, and they started talking through the doorbell. Come back inside. Where are you?
Now,
How badly do you want to know who this is?
we hunted down the hackers.
Are you guys ready to see this person?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Now, this isn't something out of a movie. This is very, very real, and everyone here is vulnerable. Take a look.
Imagine how creepy it would be to hear a strange voice inside your house.
I see you.
Your home security system could be the very device that gives hackers access into your life.
Somebody's in my son's room.
Family's wireless camera system hacked.
Your password's been leaked.
We want them to leave us alone. We want them to get out of our lives.
The Northern California family ran for cover, terrorized by their own security system.
A man's voice announced that North Korea had launched 3 missiles toward the United States.
You have something that's supposed to make you feel better, and instead it makes you feel the opposite.
Well, thousands of consumers have been hacked, including Brooklyn, who says she felt scared and trapped, and she doesn't know whether it's better to leave the house or stay put.
Our family installed a video security system in our home this past July.
So when I work away from home, I like to see my family if they were in the kitchen, and I'd say something to them, and I thought that was pretty cool.
On September 19th of this year, I was upstairs in my shop, and I heard my little girl go, "Daddy, Daddy, is that you?"
I sat right here, and then the cameras just went on.
What did you hear?
They started to say my name and your name.
I walked down my stairs, and I saw my daughter sitting on the couch, and I could hear the cameras going off. There was more than one voice. So they would speak in French and then go back and speak to my daughter. "We know your daddy's not home. Go get Brooklyn." A sheer panic went over me, and that's when I called my husband.
When Brooklyn called me and told me that we were getting hacked, my heart dropped. So I immediately told her to hang up the phone, to dial 911.
911 told me to grab my children and get out the house. We ran out the front door, and they started talking through the doorbell. "Come back inside. Where are you?" I had my 1-year-old in my arm and my 8-year-old in between my legs, crying. The police came, the cameras went off again, and they said, "Oh, Mrs. Texas, you called the police on us." The police said, "Who are you?" And all of the voices and all of the cameras started laughing. And it was the scariest day of my life.
She thought it was the scariest day of her life, but just 2 weeks later, the nightmare got worse when the hacker contacted Brooklyn on social media.
About 2 weeks after that initial attack, I received a message on a social media platform, and it said, "Brooklyn, I want to ask you a question."
I told my wife to go ahead and answer, and they admitted that they were the hackers.
They started saying, "We just wanted to let you know that your password had been stolen." And I said, "Okay, I get your point. You scared us. Find a new hobby." As soon as I sent that message, things turned for the worse. He said, "Since you would like to act like a little Now we're entering into phase 2. We are now going to be taking action against you. Let's see the cops stop what they can't see.
15 minutes later, I received a phone call. There was a voice message that was left.
Make sure to tell Brooklyn she's dead.
I heard it over and over again. It said, make sure to tell Brooklyn she's dead.
Make sure to tell Brooklyn she's dead.
Everything got very real. I was afraid that there was somebody truly after my wife.
This wasn't a silly person hacking into a camera system. This was someone that was out to get me. I was terrified.
Until it's happened to you, it's hard to imagine how real this gets, isn't it?
Absolutely. You don't think that anything like this would ever happen to you or your family. You see it in movies, you see it with celebrities, but not just a normal mama.
This is not like Hollywood or New York City or whatever.
Suburbia.
Yeah, and so you don't expect, how do I get found there? But you say the hacker spoke to your daughter.
Yes.
Whenever she got home from school. How did that happen?
She comes in from school, goes upstairs, says hello to me. I was in my shop working, walks downstairs, and not 5 minutes later, the cameras started beeping. And I know the beeping noise because my husband would beep in and go, hi, how are you? How's school? If he's not home. But I heard men's voices. And I heard my daughter going, Daddy, is that you? Is that you? And I walked down the stairs, and she's sitting on the couch in camera view, and I hid behind the wall because I immediately got terrified. My heart sunk in my chest. I heard these voices. They were yelling in French, and they were saying her name, and they were telling her, go get Brooklyn. And I knew then that something wasn't right.
You now know that they know who you are, what your business is, where you live. They know everything about you.
Children's names.
And that's what you say about, you didn't know how to protect against this, right?
Correct. No.
Because what do? You can't go slap at the air. What do you do?
I felt very powerless. My heart dropped. Like I got this cold feeling over myself. And that's when I told her she had to hang up and dial 911.
And so because they know where y'all live and have so much information on you, you don't know whether it's safer to stay inside your home,
right,
where they have access, or whether you can let your daughter go to school.
Right.
Are they going to show up not in the virtual world, but in the real world?
Right.
That was my biggest fear. That night, I didn't stay at home. He was 6 hours away. He was trying to get back home. I packed up my 3 children. That's not easy, but I was terrified to stay in that house, and we left.
You and I have 2 things in common. 1, we wear our hair the same, and 2, we don't know much about the cyber world.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but joining us is somebody who does. It's cybersecurity expert, and really the world's #1 most famous hacker, and that is Kevin Metnick. Now, Kevin, thank you so much for being here. So they have these security cameras at home, which you go and buy and you put in place. How does somebody all of a sudden just have access and are able to enter their home and observe them? They talk to them, but they could have been observing them for a long time before they ever said anything.
They're using techniques to get passwords to your accounts and then just simply logging in. The attack is really not sophisticated at all. It was simply obtaining your password, Brooklyn, or yours, and logging into the security camera cloud. And then they had complete access to every camera, and they could do this from anywhere in the world.
Well, I have said that we have the #1 hacker here today, and he was able to track down who we believe your hacker is, and I'm about to show you.
Wow.
Oh my God. I was literally terrified to be in public. I didn't leave the house. I told my husband not to leave.
I'm afraid for my wife. I don't feel comfortable traveling any longer.
I have this fear that they are anywhere and everywhere.
And later,
I picked him up and I noticed he was soaked, very, very wet. The thermostat that we have lights up, and I noticed it was 90 degrees. For a 7-month-old baby, I'm lost for words. We could have been having a very different conversation, but by the grace of God, we're not.
When the detectives began to investigate the case, they found that my email was on the black web. The company that I had used my email for ultimately had a breach, and all of the information that that company had was placed on the black web, and that's how hackers get your information and enter in the security systems and take your identity. I really wish I didn't have to learn that the hard way.
Well, Brooklyn and Eddie say the violation of having their home camera system hacked and monitored has left their family with some really lasting scars.
My wife has been paralyzed with fear because of what has happened.
I was literally terrified to be in public. I didn't leave the house for 3 days, and that's a big deal. I'm a mom on the go. I have a lot of kids. I run my own business, but I stayed in my robe. I told my husband not to leave.
We need to go to the grocery store. It's either me going alone or she takes all the children and she has to constantly be vigilant.
I don't know who these people are. I have this fear that they are anywhere and everywhere. So when I go to the grocery store, I don't know if they're following me, if they're there waiting for me, and it's this constant fear of the unknown.
The hackers have affected my job. I don't feel comfortable traveling any longer. I'm afraid for my wife. I am afraid for my children.
My daughter was the first person that these people contacted, and she was terrified. She wouldn't sleep in her own bed, and she sleeps with all the lights on.
A couple weeks ago, we asked her to go brush her teeth, to go upstairs, and she started just crying. She was afraid. We didn't know why, and then we realized it's because of the hackers. Normal people walk around feeling safe, and when you don't feel safe any longer, it changes absolutely everything.
By the way, I don't think you guys are being melodramatic or overreacting at all, because I've really tried to think through this, where you're sitting at home and then all of a sudden a voice starts talking to you. Mm-hmm. And they know your name, they know a lot of information about you. And as I was saying, Kevin, you don't know how long they've been watching.
No.
You don't know what they've seen, you don't know what they know about your children.
Especially when the detective told me that they got through our system through my email. I said, well, my daughter's school information is in my email. My son's school information is in my email. I kept them home from school because I didn't know what was going on.
And you have an online business.
Yes.
And this is something that makes you visible, right? You share pictures of family and home and outfits, and you used to share when Eddie was out of town and locations that he might be going to. And you have a YouTube channel with vlogs about life and family trips and just things that you just share about, as most people do these days. So right. There's a lot of information that's out there. So one of your thoughts was to just withdraw, right? Just get off the internet.
That was a discussion we've had many times, all the way up until even a week ago. We have talked about changing jobs, but what I do online is something that I love doing, and it has changed our lifestyle. We've kind of formatted our lifestyle based off of the income that I make, so it's almost impossible to give that up now.
Not overnight, yeah.
But at the same time, my family's safety and my safety was a top priority, but it's now like they've taken our safety and now they're going to take our income. When's enough?
What efforts have you made to find out who this is?
Well, we called 911, obviously, and they put a detective on the case. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you don't know that this is a very difficult thing to find out until it happens to you. And the local police department, even though they're great men and women, you're not their priority.
But to you, it's number one priority.
Absolutely.
Right.
So how badly do you want to know who this is? It would answer a lot of questions.
It would.
Right?
I feel like we are in a stagnant place in our life that I don't know if this was just a one-off thing, if it was someone trying to get a rise out of me. But then when it turned personal and we got the voicemail that threatened my life.
My agonizing feeling is the fact that, one, I don't know if it's a bunch of little punk kids or if it's somebody else with deadly intentions, and then just thinking they're going to one-up themselves over and over again. And so it's an agonizing feeling sitting here.
Are you guys ready to see this?
Sir.
Yeah. Wow.
This is a 17-year-old kid, probably in his mother's basement. He's on the East Coast, 1,500 miles away from your house.
Okay.
Probably not really socially active.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it. That's the most mind-boggling thing. Does a 17-year-old understand what he's done to
He doesn't look dangerous to me, but what I do not want to do is be complacent about, you know, what can potentially happen.
No, I agree, and we've attempted to get Brooklyn's hacker to participate in this show. I'm going to see one more time if they would like to clear the air.
Are you trying to call him right now?
No, I'm going to see about sending him a message.
I think that's great.
My message here is, hello, this is Dr. Phil. I'm messaging you live from my show, and your response will be spoken about. May we talk? So we'll see if...
Well, I didn't think you were going to do that.
No.
But at least you know who it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know he's 1,500 miles away.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't have the ability or capacity to get outside the city limits, let alone where you are.
Yeah.
So I think you can safely take a deep breath in that regard.
Absolutely.
And if he does show up, which
think he can handle him.
I would think, I think is a... Brooke and Eddie aren't the only family being terrorized through their smart home appliances. We're going to meet a father who caught his hacker on camera. Now, we're going to talk about that next.
I was shocked to hear a deep, manly voice talking to my 7-month-old son.
Yes, I'm here. Come.
My blood ran cold.
Before Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, and Anonymous, a self-proclaimed prankster named Kevin Mitnick became one of the FBI's most wanted.
I started hacking before there were laws against it.
Breaking into computer systems across the country. The cocky hacker did steal secrets, proprietary code, disrupting security systems. Mitnick spent 5 years in federal prison. He now helps companies keep out hackers like him.
I never predicted that I'd be doing what I do today, hacking into systems and getting paid for it.
Mitnick is still ranked the #1 hacker of all time.
Everyone's like...
Well, he's certainly using it for good. All of my guests today had their smart home camera systems hacked and their personal data compromised. Now, Arjun and his wife Jessica are another family whose smart home was hacked while their 7-month-old son was asleep. Take a look.
Arjun Sood was standing outside his son Oliver's door Sunday when he heard an unseen intruder talking to them through their Nest security camera.
Yes, I'm here. Come.
I was shocked to hear a deep, manly voice talking to my 7-month-old son. My blood ran cold.
He burst in, the voice stopped, but once downstairs...
And I was standing right about here.
They heard the voice again, using obscenities.
Asking me, you know, why I'm looking at him and continuing to taunt me.
You're all crazy niggas. Okay, yourselves. Bye.
What's that?
The Soods unplugged their interior cameras, called police, and soon after, Nest.
And I said, how long has this been going on for? We don't know. We can't tell you. We don't have the logs.
Extremely disturbing, he says, considering there are cameras all over their home. 5
outside, 6 outside, 7 outside. Until they actually communicate with you, they could be in here watching. You can't tell.
Sood says his trust in Nest is shattered. He wants to return the system.
What's that?
Nest refused.
Did you notice the temperature in your home going up before you heard the hacker?
Not entirely, Dr. Phil. What happened is my wife and I were sitting in our living room and we heard noises. As we went up, I stood outside my son's door and I listened for a little bit and I heard a voice. It sounded like they were saying obscenities. So I barged in and I picked him up and I noticed he was soaked, very, very wet. The thermostat that we have lights up because it realizes we're in a certain proximity. And I noticed it was 90 degrees.
Oh
90 degrees for a 7-month-old baby. As I think everybody here knows, they can't regulate their own temperature. Yeah. I'm lost for words when I have to express just how that made me feel. But I am also grateful that that is where it was left. We could have been having a very different conversation. But by the grace of God, we're not.
Here is some of what Arjun was able to capture from his hacking nightmare.
Yes, I'm here. Come.
I know you're here. Who are you? Who is this? Are you just sitting at your computer there? Into my account? What's that? Where are you? Which country? What's that?
How long did that conversation go on in total?
I think it was about a minute, maybe just a little bit more.
Yeah, one of the first things they said was, "Stop looking at me."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was ironic. Yeah. Do you still have these cameras?
Yes, okay. I do. You know, after this entire episode happened, suddenly the company that this happened through had the foresight, based on some of the feedback I left, to say, hey, by the way, we have something called two-factor authentication. You should probably enable it. So I did.
Kevin, does two-factor authentication help?
Oh, absolutely. Enabling two-step authentication or two factors definitely raises the bar significantly and should be done.
Okay, great. All right, coming up, we're going to speak to another young man whose home was hacked, as well as the man who hacked him, right after the break.
You buy these things to protect yourself. Obviously, it didn't turn out to be that way for me.
Hank, you're the one that was on the other end with the mask on, saying what you were saying to him at the time, but you agreed to take the mask off for us.
This Phoenix homeowner says his Nest camera was hacked into by a guy 1,500 miles away.
The researcher from Canada, your password's been leaked.
Inside Edition found the hacker.
It shouldn't be this easy for someone to do this.
He claims to have had only good intentions, alerting innocent people to the fact that their passwords have been compromised.
You never know who's listening, watching at any time on these.
Don't be scared or frightened.
Another man that caught his conversation with a hacker on camera was Andy, who says that while it felt like his home was being burglarized, his hacker opened his eyes to how vulnerable his information was.
Hello, is anyone there? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Don't be scared or frightened. I'm not here to cause any malicious thing. I'm a security researcher from Canada. I'm here to help you. I don't know, if your password's been leaked.
All right. I'm going to shut this thing down then.
Yeah, no worries. And again, I'm really sorry if I've startled you or anything. Just change your password and...
Are you just like a hacker? How does this work?
I'm just a hacker. I'm with the anonymous Calgary hive mind in Canada, and you'll be fine.
That's what they told us before they threatened to kill me.
Yeah. All right, Andy is joining us now via Polycom. His hacker, Hank, is joining us via Skype. Andy, let me start with you. How surprised were you when your camera started talking to you?
I was totally shocked. I mean, it was something that I would never expect. You know, you buy these things to protect yourself and you think that it's for the better good, but obviously it didn't turn out to be that way for me.
Hank, you're the one that was on the other end with the mask on, saying what you were saying to him at the time, but you agreed to take the mask off for us and talk about this and help educate some people. What was your agenda? What were you thinking about? And why Andy?
What I was doing the day that I connected to Andy's camera was going through cameras that were attached to businesses, so something that's a physical business with a store. And it was warning them and telling them to enable two-factor authentication and don't reuse passwords.
Why is this on your list of things to do?
I've loved computers since I was really little. I never really considered hacking a bad thing, especially warning people about it.
Are you really a Canadian researcher?
I guess I'd like to call myself an independent security researcher. I look into bug bounties and vulnerabilities every day. This wasn't something that was meant to get as big as it did. I guess you could say best case scenario, because now something might actually be done about making two-factor authentication a little easier to enable.
Andy, how do you feel about Hank at this point?
I could totally understand where he came from. I mean, keep in mind, it was nothing that I would ever expect. Again, you buy these cameras with the full intention of having the security, but I shut the camera off and decided that it's never anything I ever want to have in my home again.
Do you still think that Hank is a violator?
No. What I was safe with was knowing that he came forward to me, explained where he was coming from, whereas the other guests on your show may not have had that type of situation.
Well, Hank, I'll ask you, Brooklyn and Eddie are here, and they were contacted, and this person told them they were a Canadian researcher, and then ultimately threatened to kill her. You don't do that kind of thing, right?
No, and I want to say sorry to Brooklyn about the interaction you had. That's terrible. You guys don't deserve that. And that kid's an idiot.
Kevin, any comment or question to Hank that would help us understand more about any of this?
Yeah, why access it without authorization and kind of scare the target? Maybe there would have been a better way to advise them rather than breaking in?
Thank you for asking that, and you're right. I'll start by saying I'm one of your biggest fans, and I'm really happy to meet you.
Wow.
Secondly, you're right. This was done carelessly and not with the thought of people's privacy in mind.
But you learn from it, so that's the good thing. So obviously you're not going to be doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I won't be doing this anymore.
Andy, Hank, thank you both for talking about this. And Hank, I really appreciate you coming and letting us have some insight into what was going on. You didn't have to do that, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Joe.
All right, coming up, how easy is it for you to be hacked? Just how easy is it for you to be hacked? We'll see firsthand from Kevin. I think you're getting ready to be shocked. We'll be right back. All of my guests today had the smart cameras in their homes hacked. So just how easy is it to hack into your system? Kevin Mitnick is the world's most famous hacker who now teaches you how to be safe in cyberspace. How many of you here have a computer, iPad, or smartphone of some sort? Raise your hand. Okay, that's everybody. That's why I said this is highly relevant. Well, Kevin has some demonstrations of just how easy it can be to hack into a camera remotely, obtain account passwords, and steal an identity in just 30 seconds. So walk us through this. Let's go up. I'll come up with you.
Come over here.
I'm all ears, and assume, just for hypothetical, that I don't know.
Okay, I'll assume that.
Purely hypothetical.
So, as a person that doesn't use computers much, do you know that you're not ever supposed to plug in a USB drive that you find on the ground or that someone sends you in the mail, that if when you plug that into your computer, it could install malicious software? Did you know this?
Of course.
Okay, great. Well,
no, I didn't know that, but I've never done that. I would never pick something up and plug it in because a
lot of people do.
I would never want to put something in I didn't know what was on the stick.
Yeah, but people go to conferences and there's jars of USB drives and people just usually plug it in and don't think the better. But people have known for years you never do this.
Yeah.
But you have to think about how have hackers evolved in their tradecraft to even do this with something that's so simple that anybody would fall for it. So think about, do you have an iPhone or an Android?
I do.
You do. So you charge it with the cable.
You which.
So you charge the phone, right, with the cable?
Yes, right.
What if I could tell you we could modify that cable so when it's plugged into your computer, that we could remotely command the cable to install malware on your computer.
The cable?
The cable itself, and I'm going to show you in a second.
You're talking about a little white?
Yeah, right here. Doesn't that look like an ordinary charging cable to you?
Yeah.
How do you get the cable to the victim? Well, if you have on-site access, you're in a company and you could swap it out. Or we could do what we call a social engineering attack and send a device with a cable, like a new iPhone or a new Pixel 4, and it comes pre-packaged in the box, and when you open the box and you take the shrink wrapping off, it looks exactly like it came from factory, but what the target doesn't know is that the cable has been modified. So let me show you actually how it works.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions first?
Yeah, I want to know how this works.
Okay, all right. So we're going to plug this in. What we have here on this white screen, this is the hacker, and this computer is sitting in Virginia. It's not even in this room. So this is the hacker. This here is the victim. This is us. We plugged in the cable, and now what the attacker is going to do is command the cable to install malware, malicious software on the computer, so the hacker has complete control. So this device is a Bluetooth transmitter. I could be, within about 300 feet of the computer. I could push a button on here, and then what's going to happen, if you look at the lower left-hand corner of the Windows computer where it says types here to search, in about 5 seconds, you're going to see it like magically type. It's going to be a split second, and then what's going to happen over here, we're going to gain control of the computer. So what I want you to do, Phil, is see that A button? You can walk over there back to your chair. See the A?
Sort of.
Yeah, just...
yeah, it's the bottom one.
Yeah, press the A button. Stop. Okay, and then we should look at the lower left-hand part of the screen. There it goes. That's the malware being injected. And that's it. That's all the victim sees. And I don't see it up
that fast?
That fast.
So right now, you're controlling this computer from
Virginia.
Here.
Yeah, I'm connected to a computer in Virginia. This has malware installed now because of the cable, and now I'm able to take full control of this computer as the hacker. So I could go through all the files on the computer. I can turn on the microphone and listen to the conversations in the room. Or what is really scary is I could turn on the victim's webcam, and now I could spy on you.
So right here, I'm standing here, and you're watching me on your camera. So you could be sitting in Virginia watching me sitting at my desk.
Exactly, and listening. And that's all because I was able to use a cable, just a charging cable, to infect your computer.
We've got a home security camera set up in our green room right now.
Yes, and I want to kind of walk through exactly how you were hacked, Brooklyn. The first step of an attacker is to try to identify victims' usernames and passwords that have been leaked in data breaches. So there are literally thousands of companies that are hacked. Those databases are made public by the bad guys, and those databases contain consumer usernames and passwords, like our account might be there. We go here, I'm going to take this account, and I'm going to put it into WeLeakInfo here, and it's so simple. All I do is click search, and here we have the passwords here. She uses this password here. So now I'm the hacker, and I want to see if Chastity has a cloud camera system, and we want to go ahead and log in and see if we can get access to the victim's camera.
All right,
so let's do that. And we're going to go ahead and click sign in. Using the password, the username and password we found in that data breach, in that whole aggregated system of WeLeakInfo. So I'm going to just paste in here. Chastity, and I remember the password. Here we go. So Chastity, because her password was in a data breach, I now have access to her camera. Her camera happens to be in the green room, in the back room. If we want to talk to the guy, we can click the microphone over here on the left, Phil.
Yep.
Hey. Can you hear me? Turn around. Hello?
Yes,
you.
I can hear you.
How are you doing today? Are you doing well?
I'm doing well.
Very simple attack that was unfortunately used against you guys.
Wow, my mind is blown. I did not know how easy it was.
Okay, we have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the top 5 tips to keep you safe online. We'll be right back. Okay, we have one more demonstration before I give you the 5 tips.
Okay, so if we could have Shauna come up to stage, that'd be fantastic. All right, Shauna.
Let you stand next to him. I feel better if there's somebody between us.
The purpose of this is to show you how someone out there on the internet could steal your identity, that your information is already out there, and that you need to take some proactive measures to kind of protect yourself. So first of all, I don't know you. We've never met before except today, right? So we're going to go onto the screen. We're going to go here into a menu that lets me search on individuals in the United States. What's your last name? Okay. And your first name, Shauna, S-H-A-N-A?
Yes.
And Shauna, where are you from? So I'm just going to take your first name, your last name, and the whole state, and let's see what we find.
Okay.
And here we popped up with 4 people. Now, you're about 22. You look about 22. Is your middle initial R?
It is.
And this is your current Social Security number that you use?
That
Great,
is.
fantastic. Everyone will keep that secret.
Yeah, don't tell
And
them.
I don't know if you know your driver's license number, but we're going to pull that up. So your driver's license number, do you recognize that as being your driver's license number?
Yes.
You do. Okay, now let's look at a phone number.
That's mine.
And let's go back in time. Okay, and I want to look in the past for you. So around 2013, were you living on Drive?
I was.
Yeah, so pretty much all this information is absolutely accurate.
Yes.
So now I could easily impersonate Shauna and get her credit reports.
So you've now stolen her identity.
Now I got her credit reports. Now it even gets worse. Now on the credit reports, it shows the first 12 digits of your credit card account numbers. The last 4 are X'd out, but all these credit card account numbers are created using what we call the Loon algorithm. So we mathematically could work out her credit card numbers. And then if you have an account, we can call it, of course I can't do it, I don't have the female voice, and basically say, hey, I'm Shauna, I no longer have access to my email address. Can you reset my email address so I can gain access to my stuff? And what they'll do is they'll ask you, what's your payment information? What's your credit card that you're using to pay for the account? You give them the credit card, that validates it. They reset your email address to hacker@yahoo.com. I have access to it. I could reset your passwords now. And now I have access to your accounts.
And she doesn't.
That's right. So I can hijack.
So you're locked out. You're in. You're out.
Yeah.
So you can't even see what he's doing to you.
Exactly.
That's really scary. I don't like that that's so easy to access. There's so much control.
Yeah. And the problem is all our identity information, if we live and work in America, is out there. There's nothing we could do to mitigate that.
Wow.
So what I do personally is I put on my credit card accounts, on my brokerage accounts, on my bank accounts, anytime there's a transaction that's done on my account that's $10 or more, that's obviously a withdrawal, it sends me a text message.
Yeah.
So if somebody hacks my account, so I'm going to know immediately.
Good thought. Shauna, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Just quickly, I want to go through Kevin's 5 tips for online security. And number 1, you say use a password manager to create complicated, randomized passwords, because if we do it ourselves, there will be a pattern. You say purchase a VPN. That's a virtual private network.
So anytime you use an open wireless network, it's dangerous. So VPN is a virtual private network. You can sign up for those. So anytime you use a wireless network in a hotel, in an airport or whatever, always use a VPN. It's super cheap and will protect your communications. And finally, there's a great home course that you could access for free online, www.knowbefore.com/home course, and then put in the password home course, and it walks you through all the areas in cybersecurity that you can improve on, even protect your kids online, and it's absolutely free.
Look, we're out of time. We could talk about this all day long, but we can't because we're out of time. So I want to thank all of my guests today, with a special thanks to CEO of Mitnick Security, Kevin Mitnick. Thank you so much for doing all this. I really appreciate it. I highly recommend that you pick up his latest book, The Art of Invisibility. It is really good, and it will keep you safe. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Kevin.